Lovely. Right. So you've got the one that you've programmed already, just playing it in, and then this is one that I drew in. The downsides of drawing them in and the step sequencing is that the drawing in, it normally does all the velocities the same, which means there's no like humanism to it. It just sounds robotic, which for electronic music is spot on. It sounds great. Okay. There are tricks and tips that you can use to make it more human. There's like a humanize function, which kind of moves stuff slightly off time, so like it's actually a real human being playing it, but also randomly changes the velocities. So that's quite a useful tool, but we'll come to that another day. The next thing you'll see here, when you're on the piano roll, there's a little bit where the grey, it's greyed out, it says step sequencer. All right. So if you actually don't have one of the green bits highlighted on that said track, so click on the track and then click anywhere else apart from it, suddenly it appears. Don't know why, it's just what it is. I would always do it where you actually want it to begin with, so 6 bar 6, or yeah, I'll do that. And then click on step sequencer. And you might have used something like this before, maybe on like an iPhone app or something like that. All this is your beats separated up into squares. Okay, so you can see all your instruments on the left-hand side. You can actually remove some of these if you don't want those. And when you get a bit more advanced into year 12 and we start doing sampled kits where we're building our own out of like different sounds around the room, you can actually put them into this so it's got your very clear structure. But what it also means is certain things that you never use, you can get rid of. So say you are just making a drum beat, you might want kick, snare, claps, hi-hats, and nothing else. So it just makes this a little bit more clear and concise. You can change the drum kit still like you did before, but I'm just going to stick with the same big room kit. Now when I actually press play, I'm going to put a little loop up here. You'll see that it's not syncing with it. I don't know why. That's fun. Maybe I have to draw one in. There you go. So you draw one in and it makes this yellow box over here. Okay, so that yellow box is essentially the beat you're about to make. And you can do the same thing. You can make multiple, you can loop them, which we should never do. You can cut them and all of that sort of stuff. So when I actually draw one of these in, you can see on this bit up here that it actually draws in a little dot. Can you see that? It's really small. It's like a little white dot up there. So I've got a kick drum there, and if I press play, you can see that it's moving. Now this is a nice way, if you're not a drummer or don't want to use piano roll, you can program in here. So if I put a snare on beat 2, I can just start playing around. And I'm just clicking and dragging there. Maybe put some like got any toms anywhere? And that's another way of creating that beat. Okay, this also does some really cool stuff as well, which is more advanced, but I'll show you a little taster of it. There's this secondary control here. So there's velocity, there's loads of settings. Velocity, gate, tie, note, octave, loop, start, end, note, repeat, chance, start, offset, step, rate, skip. Don't need to know what all those mean. Okay, I won't show you what all those mean. You can play around with it in your own time. But if I click on velocity and value, it means I can actually change the velocity of some of them, which means they're going to be a bit quieter. So it makes it a bit more like human. Okay. The coolest one that you might want to play around with at some point is to do note repeat. So note repeat basically is a way of doing like glitchy sounds. So if I, at the moment, it will just play it. But let's say I want this kick here to kind of go in one bit. I can click on it and I can cut it. So there it's going to do 2 in that same space. If I go extreme, it starts becoming like a glitch sound. Start doing that on random stuff. And you start creating like this like glitchy, core-y type sound. And the same thing applies if I wanted to, you know, change the length of this. Oh, this is where I go off full screen. Like that. And all I do then is when I copy it into there, I can actually have 2 different ones, but it's kept my previous settings. So now if I actually want to, I'll put this back to normal on all of these. This mouse is going weird. So I can have one which is going to be all glitchy. And then the second one that has different ones. So when you get into those kind of like creative and they're looking for how you vary your sounds, just using that little feature and having every drum beat slightly different is a really cool way of doing it. There is also a way of turning this now into MIDI, which turns it into a green one and it will program it like that. But you don't really need that because it's really easy to use. Okay. Obviously other things as well. If you want those, let's say I wanted this one here. I'm going a bit advanced. I know I'm going in quickly. If I wanted to go longer with the glitch, so make that kick drum go longer with that glitchy sound, if I change it into a tie and I tie that over 2 and then do that weird note repeat, it would do the same thing but over 2 beats. So it's not just doing it in that one little hit. Some little like advanced stuff there just for you to play around with. And then obviously you can turn that down as well and play around. Okay, so that's another way of making your drum beat. Second to that, when we talk about bass and stuff like that, the biggest thing to remember with bass is, especially on a computer where you're not using great headphones, is sometimes if you play it too low, you're going to lose what the actual tone is. So if I go, but you can get different tones up and down the keyboard, but then it loses its hit. So you do have to work with them. Like there, you get this horrible buzzing sound, but it might just be the speaker. And down here, it's gone too low. When you learn how synths work, which you will, you'll be able to actually use that to your benefit and stuff, and layer stuff and stuff. But at the moment, I just want a decent drum beat. It's all in time, that bass line, and then some chords. Final thing I'll show you for today, it will all be on the video as well. Software instrument is pad chords. So you're going to go into synthesizer, pad. Any of these sorts of pad chords will probably be fine. You'll have to find ones that you think are nice. A lot of these have kind of variance over time. So the more you hold that, the more intense that like thing becomes. Again, with this, you'll be able to eventually look at this and understand it. Yeah, I know you're looking at it now and you're going, I don't understand this at all. It's actually fairly simple. You just don't really understand it at the moment, but you can change variants of it. But yeah, that one's not on, that's why. But yeah, I don't expect you to change something. I don't expect you to understand that right now, but I just want to see what you can create by the end of this lesson. Okay? If you want to use that step sequencer, feel free, especially for those people that struggle to make drum beats or just want to make a drum beat cool. Okay? So I'll put that video up for you guys straight away. It should be